I taught the alpha I loved how to hold someone else's hand. And the worst part was, he learned too well. Caleb Foster showed up at my apartment at 8:17 on a Friday night with 2 iced coffees, a charcoal button-down shirt still folded in plastic, and the nervous smile he only wore when he was about to ask me for something he already knew I would give. I should have pretended I was busy. I should have said I had an early shift at the bookstore, or a migraine, or literally any excuse that would keep him from stepping into my tiny living room smelling like cedarwood, orange peel, and the kind of winter air that made every omega instinct in my body sit up and listen. Instead, I opened the door wider. Because that was what I always did for Caleb. I made room. He lifted the coffees like a peace offering and said, "Don't hate me, Ethan." I laughed because it was easier than admitting my chest had already gone tight. "That depends. What did you do?" Caleb walked in like he belonged there, toeing off his sneakers by the door, setting my coffee on the end table exactly where I liked it, and dropping onto the couch with a sigh that seemed too heavy for a guy who was 6'2", broad-shouldered, and usually impossible to shake. He rubbed the back of his neck, his dark blonde hair falling over his forehead in a way that made him look younger than 24, softer than the alpha everyone else saw. "I have a date tomorrow night," he said. The words landed quietly, but they split something open anyway. I stood beside the kitchen counter with my hand still wrapped around the cold coffee cup, feeling the condensation slide between my fingers. "Oh," I said, and somehow my voice came out normal. "That's great." Caleb looked up at me, blue eyes uncertain. "Is it?" I smiled. I had practiced that smile for 3 years. The best friend smile. The safe smile. The smile that said I was happy for him, even if some ridiculous part of me had spent half a decade memorizing the sound of his laugh and the exact way his scent changed when he was worried. "Who's the lucky guy?" I asked. "Ryan Blake." I knew the name. Everyone knew Ryan Blake. Perfect jawline. Family money. Old alpha blood. The kind of guy who looked like he had been born already wearing a tailored coat and knowing exactly where he belonged. He and Caleb made sense in the clean, public way people liked to applaud. Caleb Foster and Ryan Blake would look good under restaurant lights. They would look good in photos. They would look good standing beside each other while people said, "Finally, what a perfect match." Caleb shifted on the couch. "That's actually why I'm here." I forced myself to take a sip of coffee. It tasted sweeter than usual, almost cruel. "You need outfit advice?" He held up the folded shirt. "That, yes. But also..." He looked embarrassed, which should have been funny, because Caleb could negotiate with university donors, calm angry alphas at crowded events, and walk through a room like gravity had personally chosen him as its favorite. But now he was looking at my worn carpet like it might save him. I haven't been on a real date in a long time. I don't know how to do it without sounding like I'm giving a job interview. My laugh slipped out before I could stop it. "You kind of do talk like that." "Exactly." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "So I need help. Practice with me." For one stupid second, I thought I had heard him wrong. Practice. Just conversation. Maybe how to start, how to not be weird, how to make it feel natural. He gave me that hopeful look, the one that had ruined me 100 different times. "You're good at making people comfortable, Ethan. You always know what to say." I looked at him, at the alpha I loved, asking me to help him become lovable for someone else, and I felt my suppressant patch itch beneath my sleeve like even my body was trying to warn me. "Say no," I thought. "Protect yourself for once." But Caleb was waiting, gentle and trusting, and I was still the fool who would rather bleed quietly than make him feel alone. So I set my coffee down, sat across from him, and said, "Okay, let's practice." We started with the easy things, because easy things were safer. Caleb stood in front of my hallway mirror while I sat on the arm of the couch, pretending that my heart was not doing something embarrassing every time he looked at me for approval. The charcoal shirt fit him unfairly well, stretching across his shoulders without looking tight. The sleeves rolled to his forearms like he had seen it in a magazine and decided to ruin my life by copying it perfectly. "Too much?" he asked, tugging at the collar. "No," I said a little too quickly. "It is good. Simple. Confident. Not like you are trying to prove anything." He glanced at me through the mirror, one eyebrow lifting. That sounded personal. That sounded accurate. He smiled, and the room warmed by 10 degrees. I looked away first, because I always did. That was the rule I had made for surviving Caleb Foster. Never stare too long. Never let silence grow too soft. Never allow yourself to believe that the way he remembered your coffee order meant the same thing to him as it meant to you. We had met during sophomore year at Westbridge University, when I was 19, broke, hiding my Omega status behind discount suppressants, and carrying too many used textbooks across a rain-soaked campus. One of the straps on my backpack snapped outside the library, spilling notes, pens, and a week of unpaid worry across the sidewalk. People stepped around me like I was weather. Caleb was the only one who stopped. He was already the kind of alpha people noticed from 20 feet away, tall, bright-eyed, golden in the careless way popular boys sometimes were. But he knelt in the rain without hesitation and helped gather every soggy page. When he handed me my notebook, he said, "You label your chemistry notes like court evidence." I told him, "That is because science is a crime scene with better lighting." He laughed so hard he dropped my pencil case, and somehow, from that stupid moment, he became part of my life. He walked me home after late classes. He brought soup when I caught the flu. He sat outside my dorm room once during a bad suppressant reaction, not coming in, not asking invasive questions, just staying on the floor in the hallway for 3 hours because I had texted that I was scared. Caleb never made me feel like a problem. That was the dangerous part. Safety can look too much like love when you have been lonely long enough. Back in my apartment, he turned from the mirror and opened his arms slightly. "So, date Caleb or funeral Caleb?" I swallowed the ache behind my ribs and forced a grin. "Date Caleb. Unfortunately, it means Ryan Blake might actually have a personality crisis when you walk in." His smile faded just a little at Ryan's name, so quickly I almost missed it. "Right," he said. "Ryan." Then he sat across from me again, close enough that his knee nearly brushed mine, and asked, "How should I start the conversation?" I should have given him a script. I should have kept it harmless. Instead, I heard myself say, "Do not start with a compliment. Start by making him feel seen." Caleb went quiet. "How?" I looked down at my hands. "Ask him something no one else bothers to ask." "Like what?" I shrugged, trying to sound casual. "Like whether he is tired of being impressive." Caleb did not answer right away. When I finally looked up, he was not taking mental notes for Ryan. He was looking at me, really looking, with an expression I did not know how to name. Then, softly, he said, "Are you tired, Ethan?" The question was so gentle it almost broke me. I laughed under my breath and reached for my coffee, using the cup as something to hold on to. "This is your practice date, remember?" "I know," he said, but his voice had changed. "I am practicing." The room went quiet, and for the first time that night, the lie between us felt less like a wall and more like a door neither of us was brave enough to open. Caleb held my gaze for 1 second too long, and I hated that my first instinct was not to look away, but to stay there and let it hurt. The apartment felt smaller than it had 5 minutes ago, as if the walls had leaned in to hear what neither of us knew how to say. Outside, traffic whispered along the street below, headlights sliding across my curtains in pale gold bands. But inside, the only thing I could hear was the steady rhythm of Caleb breathing across from me. He cleared his throat first, breaking the spell with a crooked smile that looked almost nervous. "Okay," he said. "Make him feel seen." "I can do that." I nodded, grateful and disappointed at the same time. "Good. Now ask a follow-up question. Do not make it sound like an interview. Make it sound like you actually care about the answer." Caleb leaned back, considering me with exaggerated seriousness. "So, Mr. Miller, are you tired of being impressive?" I rolled my eyes because the alternative was admitting that my pulse had jumped. "That is terrible. You cannot call Ryan Mr. Blake unless you want him to think you are applying to be his accountant." Caleb laughed, and that laugh brushed through me like warmth through a cold room. "Then how would you answer it?" "I would not," I said, "because I am not impressive." His smile vanished so fast I wished I could take the words back. "That is not true." "Caleb, it is not." His voice was quiet now, firm in the way only an alpha could be firm without raising it. "You work 2 part-time jobs, you remember every customer at the bookstore, you fix everyone else's problems before they even ask, and you somehow still find time to keep this place feeling like home." I stared at him, stunned by the accuracy of it, by the unfairness of him noticing that much and still not knowing what it did to me. The air shifted. My suppressant patch prickled beneath the sleeve of my sweatshirt, a faint warning pulse against my wrist. I tugged the cuff lower and forced a light tone. "See? That. Say something like that to Ryan and you will be fine. Caleb looked down at my wrist, then back to my face. Does it bother you? What? Helping me with this? The question was too direct, too dangerous. I stood before he could see my expression clearly and carried both coffee cups to the kitchen even though neither of them was empty. It bothers me that you are this bad at dating, I said. That is different. He followed me only halfway, stopping near the edge of the living room like he had reached an invisible line. Ethan. I gripped the counter. The laminate was cool beneath my palms. Next lesson, I said brightly. Body language. Do not fold your arms. It makes you look guarded. I am guarded. Then unfold them and lie. That made him smile again, but softer this time. He obeyed, letting his arms drop. To his sides. Like this. Better. Tilt your shoulders toward him. Not too much. Just enough to show interest. Caleb turned his body slightly toward me, and the simple movement felt absurdly intimate, like I had asked him to step closer even though he had not moved at all. And eye contact? He asked. 3 seconds, I said. Maybe 4. Long enough to feel honest. Not long enough to feel like you were trying to win a staring contest. He counted silently, eyes fixed on mine. 1, 2, 3, 4. My throat tightened. I looked away. Caleb noticed. Of course he noticed. Was that too much? He asked. No, I said, picking at the edge of my sleeve. That was perfect. The word tasted bitter. Perfect for Ryan. Perfect for tomorrow night. Perfect for the version of Caleb that would sit across from someone else in a downtown restaurant while I sat here pretending I had not helped build the moment. Caleb took one careful step closer. What comes after eye contact? I should have said humor. I should have said ask about his work, or offer to walk him to his car, or anything ordinary enough to keep us safe. Instead, because I was tired, because I was selfish, because some reckless part of me wanted one memory I could keep after he left, I said, sometimes you reach for his hand. Caleb went still. My heart stumbled. Only if the moment feels right, I added quickly. It is not required. But Caleb was already looking at my hand where it rested on the counter, fingers curled tight, knuckles pale. Can we practice that too? He asked, and the whole room seemed to hold its breath. I wanted to say no. The word was right there, balanced on the edge of my tongue, small enough to save me and heavy enough to change the room. But Caleb was standing in my kitchen with his sleeves rolled up, his blue eyes careful, his alpha sense softened into something almost uncertain, and I hated that even after all these years, my first instinct was still to protect his feelings before my own. Fine, I said, pretending to be annoyed. But do not make it weird. His mouth curved faintly. I will do my best. That was the problem. Caleb's best had always been devastating. I turned my hand, palm up on the counter, aiming for casual, like this was an ordinary lesson between friends and not the closest I had ever come to asking the universe for mercy. He stepped closer. Not quickly, not carelessly. Caleb moved like he knew every inch mattered. The kitchen light caught the gold in his hair, the line of his jaw, the concentration in his face, as if holding my hand was not practice at all, but something delicate he could ruin if he rushed. His fingers touched mine. Warm, steady, gentle. My entire body betrayed me with one silent breath. The patch beneath my sleeve pulsed again, sharper this time, and a thin thread of my real scent slipped through before I could stop it. Not much, just a trace of vanilla chilled by rain. The part of me I kept hidden from crowded rooms, from curious alphas, from anyone who might look too closely and decide I was something to claim or control. Caleb froze. His thumb had only just settled over my knuckles, but suddenly he was not smiling. His gaze dropped to our joined hands, then lifted to my face with a startled intensity that made my stomach twist. Ethan, he said quietly, your scent changed. I pulled my hand back too fast. Old patch. It happens. Does it? Yes. I tugged my sleeve lower, my voice bright and brittle. Congratulations. You successfully held a hand. Very advanced dating behavior. He did not laugh. That made it worse. Caleb looked at me like he was trying to read a language he should have learned years ago. You are shaking. I had too much coffee. You barely drank any. Then I am cold. It is 72 degrees in here. I hated him a little for knowing that. I hated him more for stepping toward me with concern instead of confusion, because concern was the one thing I could not defend against. Ethan, talk to me. About what? My voice cracked at the end, and we both heard it. The silence that followed was soft, terrible, and full of everything I had buried. I moved away from the counter, needing distance, but my hip bumped the small table by the window, and one of my old paperbacks slid to the floor. Caleb bent automatically to pick it up. When he straightened, he saw the bookmark sticking out. From the middle, the one he had given me in college after I spilled tea on my notes. It was faded now, the little blue ribbon frayed at the end. His expression changed again, slower this time. "You kept this." I reached for it, embarrassed. "It is just a bookmark." He did not hand it over. "I gave this to you 4 years ago. Books need bookmarks." "Ethan." My name sounded different in his mouth, no longer casual, no longer safe. I could feel the room tilting towards something I was not ready to survive. So I reached for the only shield I had left. "You should practice compliments next," I said. "Ryan probably likes those." Caleb's jaw tightened at Ryan's name, and for one impossible second, the air between us sparked with something that felt almost like jealousy, though that made no sense at all. Before either of us could speak, Caleb's phone lit up on the couch. The screen glowed in the dim room with an incoming video call. Ryan Blake. Caleb looked at the phone, then at me, and the strange warmth in his eyes disappeared behind a guarded mask. "I should answer," he said. I nodded because that was what best friends did. They stepped aside. They made room. They pretended it did not hurt when someone else called. Caleb answered on the third ring, and the moment Ryan Blake appeared on the screen, I understood why people trusted beautiful things too easily. He looked polished in a way that made my small apartment feel suddenly embarrassing, like the peeling corner of wallpaper near my bookshelf and the thrift store lamp beside the couch were personal failures. Ryan sat somewhere dim and expensive, maybe a private lounge or the back seat of a car, his dark hair styled perfectly, his white dress shirt open at the collar just enough to look effortless without actually being effortless. His smile was calm, sharp, and practiced. "Caleb," he said, dragging the name out like he owned part of it. Caleb's shoulders went tight before his face changed. I noticed because I always noticed him. "Ryan, I thought we were set for tomorrow." "We are." Ryan's eyes shifted slightly, and I realized he could see me standing behind Caleb near the kitchen. His smile widened by half an inch. "Oh, so this is the friend. Not your friend. The friend." Like I was a detail he had already heard about and decided did not matter. Caleb stepped subtly to the side, blocking part of the screen with his shoulder. The movement was small, almost nothing, but it made my chest ache anyway. "Ethan is helping me with something." "How sweet," Ryan said. "Most people would not be that generous." I wanted to leave the room, but pride pinned my feet to the floor. I would not run from a video call in my own apartment. I would not let some alpha with perfect teeth and a perfect last name turn me into a shadow. So I picked up the coffee cups again and carried them to the sink with as much dignity as possible. Ryan watched me the entire time. I could feel it like cold light on the back of my neck. "You were practicing then?" he asked. Caleb's voice stayed even. "A little. Conversation? Compliments? The usual awkward performance people pretend is romance." Caleb did not smile. "Something like that." Ryan leaned closer to his camera. "Then you should practice the ending." My hand slipped against the wet cup. Caleb's head turned slightly toward me, but he did not answer. Ryan continued, smooth and entertained. "You know, walking someone to the door, saying goodnight, deciding whether to be brave or polite. That is not necessary," Caleb said. It came out too quickly. Ryan noticed. I did too. "Is it not?" Ryan asked. "Tomorrow night will be public enough that hesitation may look strange. My family values confidence. I thought yours did too." The air in the room cooled. Caleb's jaw tightened, and for the first time since I had known him, he looked less nervous than trapped. I should have stayed quiet. I should have let him refuse. But Ryan's gaze slid toward me again, amused and measuring, and something hot and foolish rose under my ribs. I was tired of being the person everyone protected by hiding. I was tired of pretending my feelings made me fragile. "It is fine," I said. Caleb turned fully then. "Ethan," I shrugged, forcing a laugh that sounded almost believable. "We are practicing, right? A goodnight moment is normal. It does not have to mean anything." The lie came out clean, and maybe that was how I knew it had cut deep. Caleb stared at me as if I had stepped off a curb into traffic he could see and I could not. Ryan gave a soft, satisfied hum. "See? Your friend understands." I hated the word by then. Friend. It had become a beautiful little cage, and I had lived inside it so long I had started decorating the bars. Caleb ended the call without saying goodbye. The screen went black, leaving only our reflections in the dark glass of his phone. His face pale with restraint, mine carefully empty. For several seconds, neither of us moved. Then Caleb set the phone down on the couch like it was something breakable. "You do not have to prove anything to him," he said. "I know," I answered. "Then why did you say yes?" "Because I love you. Because I cannot stand being invisible. Because if tomorrow belongs to Ryan, I want one stolen second that feels like mine, even if it is fake." I said none of that. I only smiled, stepped into the center of the room, and whispered, "Because we are friends." Caleb did not move toward me right away. That was the first thing that made it unbearable. If he had laughed, if he had treated the whole thing like a joke, I could have survived it with sarcasm and a locked bathroom door afterward. But he stood there near the couch, his phone dark behind him, looking at me as if I had just offered him something fragile, and he was terrified his hands were too rough to hold it. "We do not have to do this," he said. His voice was low, almost careful. "Ryan was trying to get under your skin. He succeeded," I said before I could stop myself. Caleb's eyes sharpened. I regretted it instantly and folded my arms, trying to look bored instead of exposed. "I mean, he is annoying. That is all." "That is not all. You wanted practice." "Not like this." The answer should have comforted me. Instead, it stung. "Not like this. Not with me. Not when it counted." I nodded once and reached for the safest mask I owned, the light one, the teasing one, the one Caleb always believed because he wanted to. "Relax. It is a good night moment, not a marriage proposal. You walk me to the door, say something charming, maybe look like you have not forgotten how emotions work, and then we are done." Caleb watched me for another long second. "And you are okay with that?" "No. Never. Not even close." "Yes," I said. He stepped forward then, slowly, as if giving me every chance to change my mind. My apartment had never felt so full of quiet. The hum of the refrigerator, the soft buzz of the streetlight outside my window, the tiny, traitorous sound of my own breathing when Caleb stopped in front of me. He was close enough that his scent settled over me again, cedarwood and orange peel, steadier now, threaded with something darker that I had never noticed before. Concern, restraint, wanting something and refusing to take it without permission. "Pretend the door is behind you," I whispered. He glanced past me toward the actual door, then back. "Ethan, you were supposed to say something." Caleb swallowed. His gaze dropped to my mouth for half a second, then returned to my eyes like he had been burned by the mistake. "I had a good time tonight," he said. The words were simple, but they sounded wrong in the right way. Too sincere for practice, too gentle for Ryan. I forced a smile. "Good. Then I say I did too." "Did you?" My smile slipped. "Caleb, I am practicing honesty. That is not a dating technique. Maybe it should be." The air between us tightened until every inch felt impossible. My patch prickled again under my sleeve, and this time I knew he noticed, because his nostrils flared slightly and his hands curled at his sides like he was holding himself still by force. I should have stopped. I should have ended the lesson, made another joke, stepped away from the edge. Instead, I lifted my chin and said, "Then finish the practice." Caleb's expression changed, pained and searching. "Tell me to stop, and I will." I nodded because my voice had left me. He leaned in with the kind of slowness that made time feel merciless. The kiss was light, barely more than a question pressed against my lips, safe enough for any story, gentle enough that no one could call it a mistake. And still, the world inside me split open. My scent slipped free all at once, vanilla, rain, and white flowers flooding the room in a wave I could not hide. Caleb pulled back immediately, breathing hard like he had just remembered something his soul had known before his mind did. His eyes were wide, no longer guarded, no longer practicing. "Ethan," he whispered, and my name sounded like a discovery. I touched my own mouth with trembling fingers, horrified by the tears burning behind my eyes. That was not supposed to happen. Caleb looked at me as if every lie we had ever told had finally fallen between us, useless and transparent. "No," he said softly. But it did. I stepped back so quickly my shoulder touched the wall, and Caleb lifted both hands as if the air itself had become something he needed to respect. He did not follow me. He did not reach for me. That should have made me feel safer, but somehow it only made the room ache more. My scent still lingered between us, soft and unmistakable, the hidden truth of me hanging in the apartment like a confession I had never agreed to make. Caleb looked shaken in a way I had never seen before. Not frightened of me, frightened for me. "How long has the patch been failing?" he asked. The question was so practical, so painfully Caleb, that I almost laughed. "That is what you want to ask after that?" His face tightened. "I want to ask 1,000 things. I am starting with the one that keeps you safe." Safe. The word scraped through me. "You keep saying that like I am a case file. You are not a case file. Then stop treating me like something that needs to be managed." His eyes flashed, not with anger, but with a hurt that vanished almost as soon as it appeared. "I have been trying not to manage anything. Really." My voice rose before I could soften it. "Because from where I am standing, you were about to go on a date with Ryan Blake. Let him talk about me like I was furniture, and then come here asking me to teach you how to make him feel special." Caleb went still. The silence that followed felt different from every silence before it. He looked toward the window, jaw working once, like he was choosing between the lie that protected him and the truth that might ruin us both. "It was not supposed to be a date," he said. I stared at him. "What? Not a real one?" He turned back to me, and the guarded mask he had worn during Ryan's call cracked down the middle. "Ryan asked for a public dinner. Cameras outside. His family arriving halfway through. A convenient story about two old alpha families becoming closer." My stomach dropped slowly, inch by inch. "Then why would you agree?" Caleb's hand curled at his side. "Because he knew about you." The apartment seemed to lose sound. Even the traffic below disappeared. "What does that mean?" I whispered. Caleb's voice lowered. "He knew your suppressant records were irregular. He knew you were buying patches under an old student identification number. He knew you never completed Omega registration after college." The blood drained from my face. I had kept that secret folded tight for years, hidden between late rent payments, cash pharmacy counters, and a constant fear of being noticed by the wrong person. Caleb took one careful breath. He said if I refused the dinner, he would make sure the city review board received everything by Monday morning. My knees felt weak, but pride kept me standing. "And you were not going to tell me?" "I was going to fix it. You were going to lie. I was going to protect you. By letting me think you wanted him." The question broke sharper than I meant it to. Caleb flinched. That was the moment I understood. He had not been practicing for Ryan because he wanted Ryan. He had been practicing because Ryan had turned my life into leverage, and Caleb, brilliant, loyal, impossible Caleb, had decided to carry the damage alone. The relief hurt almost as badly as the betrayal. I pressed a hand over my wrist, over the failing patch, over the secret that had suddenly become too big for my skin. "You had no right," I said, but my voice shook. Caleb nodded once, eyes bright with something he refused to let fall. "I know." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Caleb stood in the center of my apartment with the truth between his hands, and I stood across from him feeling like every version of our friendship had just been turned inside out. The anger came. First, because anger was easier to hold than fear. "You decided for me," I said. "You found out someone had information about my life, my body, my records, and instead of telling me, you made yourself the hero in a story I did not even know I was trapped inside." Caleb looked down, and the sight of him silent almost undid me. He had always been steady. My steady person. The one who knew which bus line I avoided at night. The one who texted me when storms got bad because thunder made my old apartment shake. The one who remembered that I hated being surprised in public. And now I was realizing that his protection had a shadow. It could become a locked door if he was scared enough. "I thought if I handled Ryan quietly, you would never have to know," he said. "That was the goal." I gave a small, broken laugh. "That I would sit here tonight helping you practice for him, smiling like an idiot, while you carried some secret sacrifice around like a noble wound?" His eyes lifted to mine. "I never wanted you to hurt." "Then why did it hurt so much?" The question slipped out raw and honest, and once it was in the room, I could not take it back. Caleb's face changed. Whatever defense he had left fell apart. "Because I am a coward," he said quietly. I blinked. "What?" "Because it was easier to let you think I was interested in Ryan than admit the truth and risk losing you." My breath caught, but I did not move. I did not trust the ground under us anymore. Caleb took one careful step closer, then stopped when I stiffened. "I did not ask you to help tonight because I needed practice with Ryan. I came here because I wanted one honest night with you before tomorrow forced everything into the open. I wanted to know if I had imagined it. The way you look at me when you think I am not paying attention. The way I cannot stand it when someone else makes you laugh too long. The way my alpha instincts have been choosing you for years while my mouth kept calling you my best friend. My heart was beating so hard it felt visible. Do not say that because you feel guilty. I am saying it because it is true. His voice shook on the last word, and that frightened me more than confidence ever could have. Caleb Foster, who could stand in front of any room and make people listen, looked terrified of one Omega in a thrift store sweatshirt. I love you, Ethan, he said. Not as a friend. Not safely. Not quietly. I have loved you so badly that I turned it into protection because I did not know what else to do with it. My eyes burned, but I refused to cry just because the words I had wanted for years had arrived wrapped in betrayal. You should have trusted me. I know. You should have let me choose. I know. And you should have kissed me because you wanted to, not because Ryan pushed us into some cruel little test. Caleb's throat moved as he swallowed. I didn't want to. The room went silent again, but this time it was not empty. It was shaking with everything we had not said. Then his phone lit up on the couch. We both looked at it. A message appeared from Ryan, bright and cold against the dark screen. Tomorrow night. Bring him too. I want to see which Omega made you forget your place. Caleb reached for the phone, but I got there first. My hands were trembling, yet when I read the message again, something inside me became strangely calm. Ryan had imagined me hidden, frightened, grateful to be protected in silence. Maybe yesterday, he would have been right. Not tonight. I looked at Caleb and saw fear flash across his face because he already knew what I was about to say. No, his voice was immediate. Ethan, absolutely not. I held up the phone. He asked to see me. He is trying to bait us. Then he should have chosen better bait. Caleb stepped closer, panic breaking through his restraint. You do not understand what people like Ryan can do. I understand exactly what men like Ryan count on, I said. They count on people like me staying quiet because someone stronger told us it was safer. His expression crumpled. I softened, but only a little. I am scared, Caleb. But I am more tired than scared. I handed him the phone, then pulled my sleeve back and looked at the failing patch on my wrist. For the first time that night, I did not hide it. Tomorrow, I am not going as your secret, I said. I am going as myself. Caleb stared at me like I had opened a door he had spent years standing in front of. The fear in his eyes did not disappear, but something else rose beside it, something steadier, something that looked almost like faith. Yourself, he repeated, quietly, as if the word mattered. Yes, I said, though my voice trembled. Not your problem. Not your responsibility. Not the fragile Omega you keep putting behind you every time the world gets loud. His mouth tightened, but he did not argue. Maybe he finally understood that protection without trust could feel too much like a prettier kind of cage. I sat on the edge of the couch and peeled the failing patch from my wrist with fingers that shook so badly the adhesive pulled at my skin. Caleb took one step forward, then stopped himself. He was learning. That made my chest hurt in a new way. The room filled slowly with my real scent, vanilla after rain, white flowers, the soft truth of a life I had spent hiding under pharmacy paper bags and nervous smiles. Caleb closed his eyes for 1 second, not losing control, not reaching, only breathing like the world had changed shape around him. When he opened them again, his voice was rough with restraint. I wish I had known sooner. I folded the used patch in half. I wish I had trusted someone enough to say it. You can trust me now. I looked up at him. Can I? The question struck him harder than any accusation. He lowered himself onto the coffee table across from me, close enough to be honest, far enough to let me choose. I will earn that answer, he said. No grand promise. No alpha certainty. Just the first true thing he had given me all night without trying to protect me from it. My throat tightened. Tomorrow is not just a dinner, is it? Caleb shook his head. The Meridian Hotel. 7:30. Ryan's family will have photographers nearby. They want a clean story before his father announces a political partnership with mine. And I ruin the picture. You do not ruin anything. Caleb, you change it, he said. There is a difference. I almost smiled. Almost. Then his phone buzzed again, and both of us looked down. Another message from Ryan appeared. We're something presentable. Cameras are cruel to people who do not belong. For a second, the old shame reached for me. I saw my cheap lamp, my secondhand books, the frayed cuff of my sweatshirt, the life I had built out of almost enough. Then Caleb's hand settled palm up on the coffee table between us. Not grabbing, not demanding, waiting. I looked at it for a long moment before placing my fingers over his. This time, neither of us called it practice. I have a navy suit, I said. It is from a clearance rack, and the sleeves are a little short. Caleb's thumb brushed once over my knuckles, careful as a question. Then tomorrow, everyone at the Meridian can learn that belonging was never about the price tag. I let out a breath that nearly became a laugh, nearly became a sob, and leaned back against the couch as the city lights moved across the window behind him. For the first time in years, I imagined walking into a room without making myself smaller. Caleb stayed until after midnight, not touching more than my hand, not asking for forgiveness he had not earned, only sitting with me while we planned the truth. But just before he left, he paused at my door and looked at me with those blue eyes that had once felt like safety and now felt like a beginning. Tomorrow night, he said, if you want to leave, we leave. If you want to speak, I stand beside you. If you want me silent, I stay silent. I nodded, my hand resting over the place where the patch used to be. And if I get scared? Caleb's expression softened. Then be scared with me. After he was gone, I stood alone in the quiet apartment, breathing my own uncovered scent for the first time without shame. At 6:00 for the next morning, my phone lit up with an unknown number and a single message that turned my blood cold. Do not come tonight, Ethan Miller. Caleb is not the only one who has been keeping secrets.